Welcome to #52Needs, and this week we are exploring health. And I'm very delighted to have with me Cheryl Meyer, who has an autoimmune disease. Cheryl eliminated toxins and reversed her pain, and she now helps others with chronic illness to make lifestyle changes that will improve their own health. Cheryl has a BA from UC-Berkeley and is a health coach from IIN. Cheryl is an award-winning author, international bestseller, health coach, speaker, local TV host, and guest podcaster. You're juggling a lot of things and wearing a lot of hats, but they all have one thing in common: toxins. How did you get into that?
I got sick, and I didn't know what made me sick. I had my own business. And when I got sick and literally couldn't get out of bed, I hurt so bad. I had 4 rounds of tests run with my conventional doctor, and she called me back and said, "There's nothing wrong with you. I'm going to give you steroids because you say you hurt. But what I really want you to do is go for mental therapy." I said, "Why would I take steroids if there's nothing wrong with me, A? And I know my body, and I know there is something wrong with me. So I'm going to dig in and I'm going to find it." And I had a staff well trained, so I turned my business over to them and tripped literally into the functional medical community because I didn't even know what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And at the time, they were running 19 different symposiums, and all of the doctors in all 19 symposiums had become functional doctors because they couldn't help themselves when they got sick. So I started really paying attention, and there were some threads. One was that stress created something called leaky gut. Mm-hmm. Didn't know what leaky gut was, but I wrote a note that I needed to explore that. But it wasn't the only thing that caused leaky gut. The other thing that caused leaky gut were toxins. And I had, since I was a child, I had all kinds of allergies and rashes, and I reacted poorly to my environment. In fact, my joke was that I popped out allergic to Pittsburgh. And when I was 4, my father, a chemist, got me out of there because he didn't think I would actually grow up if I stayed there. Whoa. And when I said that to my own functional doctor 4 years later, she said, "You might have something called MTHFR, which means what goes into your body stays in your body." Mm-hmm. Because it's an anomaly I got in my DNA from both parents. Oh. But thank God I decided to research toxins. The first thing I looked up was my very expensive French cosmetic, and it was a 9 on a 10-point scale. I was horrified. And from there, I decided I needed to get into food because I didn't understand what GMOs are and what was being sprayed on our conventional crops, or why it was a big advantage to buy organic. Everybody was eating conventional. Why couldn't I eat conventional? Well, that was an eye-opener too, especially the GMO part, because California, which is where I live, had GMOs on the ballot, and it lost because of all the misinformation that was put out by the chemical companies. So I started digging into what did all this mean and what was I going to do with all the information. And at first I got angry that our government here in the United States was not protecting me. And they're not. And big food, big agriculture, big pharma, they're not out there for my health. They're out there to make a profit. So as I got into every category, and in the end I had eliminated hundreds of toxins, literally, I decided that I was going to become a voice, because if we all joined together, the Institute for Responsible Technology said it would only take a 5% shift, and all those big businesses would start to pay attention. And in the 10 years since I've been doing this, I've seen all kinds of things change. Back then, there was only one makeup company that was clean enough for me to use on my skin. Now there's all kinds of choices. So we're moving towards a less toxic world, but most of us still don't know about it. So I ended up selling my jewelry business last year because I decided I wanted to be all in. I was meeting all kinds of people who needed this information, who were as hurt and frustrated and not finding answers for what was causing their pain. And it actually took me 3 years to get to my own functional doctor to have it verified that it was autoimmune disease. But I don't have a named autoimmune disease. I am just an unclassified one. There's 140 that are named. And I joke that I'm a little bit of a Chinese menu because I have a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B and a little bit from column C, and they haven't named that. But it's closest to fibromyalgia, which is why I had so much pain.
Okay.
Now, let me just quickly say the difference between a conventional doctor here and a functional doctor here, other than just education, is a conventional doctor only looks organ by organ. They find a body part, they hear your first complaint, and then they match a pill to it. Their number one source of information is their pharmaceutical rep. And so they're looking for how can they help you with a drug. I didn't want to take drugs. I've been sensitive to drugs my whole life. A functional doctor looks at your whole body. And when I finally found a functional doctor that I fell in love with and who, honest to God, saved my health at the end, the first thing she said to me is, "You're sitting on a tack. Let's find it." And she ran totally different tests than the conventional doctor and got totally different results as a result, because she had a different approach in terms of what she was looking for.
Right.
It was fascinating. So to this day, my conventional appointments were maybe 5 minutes, maybe 7 at most. I spend 45 minutes every time I go in to see my functional doctor. And she sells my book to her patients. She's a big supporter of what I'm doing. And I research, she researches, we put our minds together, and I come out with better health. So all the way around, it's a great thing. But toxins are everywhere. And what I started calling myself was Girl Interrupted, because toxic load builds up over 20 years. I had all kinds of signs. The universe was trying to tell me that something was wrong, and it just went past my brain so quick I didn't even stop to think about it, because I was so focused on my business that taking care of me was never the priority. And even when I would get home at night, I was on fast speed all day. I would be shoving food in my mouth fast when I got home, and it wasn't healthy food. I was eating crud. And so when they told me that it had to start with food, that kind of resonated and made sense, because I had never paid attention to what kinds of things I was putting in my body. And I used to wonder when I picked up fast food, could this possibly be real for this price? Well, ends up it's fake food. So no, it was not real. And it was loaded with chemicals. But food is not the only place we have chemicals here. They're everywhere. They're in all categories. And we have a city called Flint, Michigan here that had a horrific problem with their water system. But guess what? We have bad water all over this country. So the second thing I did was put a filter on my kitchen sink. And that was what I started cooking with and drinking from. And I bought stainless steel bottles. I take my own water with me everywhere I go. I bought big jugs. They stay in my car. They keep the water cool and lovely. Doesn't matter how many days it's in there. And so I can always refill my own bottles. The only time I buy plastic now is if I'm flying somewhere, because I can't go through with liquid in these. But plastic bottles of water are 1,200 times more expensive than if you put the filter on your sink. And it's leaching plastic chemicals into the water, and then it's leaching little microbes into your water. So you're paying a fortune to get poisoned twice.
Yeah. Well, here in Australia, we are very fortunate in lots of companies. There are built-in filters, and some of them actually have sparkling water attached to them. So to encourage people to drink more. So it's great. And people, because it's Australia, everybody carries a water bottle. So,
congratulations. Getting people to do it here, even when they hire me as their coach, is a little bit of a struggle, even when they understand.
No, there's always water around. I mean, like I always have water near me, and I know that a lot of people do as well, because it's not part of the climate, but it's also part of the culture.
Well, and we need to keep our body hydrated. Our body can't function properly without proper hydration.
Okay, so since we're already on topic in the office, there are lots of things that off gas, right?
There are lots of things that off gas in your office and in your home.
Because
and it could be something as simple as the paint that they used in your office that has lead or chemicals in it that's off-gassing. Almost all linoleums off gas, carpeting off gases. I'm fortunate I got married to a wonderful guy who wanted to go on a get well journey with me 6 years ago. And we had two homes 10 minutes apart from each other. So we sold his house and put things that did not off gas into my home, which is the house I grew up in. So everything got changed, but we lowered the toxic load that the house had on me dramatically. And the other problem I had in the office that I was not aware of was there was a leak in the wall behind me. And so there was mold growing in the wall. And I have, to this day, I haven't, it was black mold, but there were like 20 of them. And my body doesn't want to give them up. So that's my last big hurrah to take care of for my body, because I still have mold in me and I have done all the regular protocols and it hasn't helped yet, but we haven't given up either.
As you said, these things take a long time to build up and we don't really notice them until the body gets to a certain place of overload and then it just says, I can't cope with it anymore. So if people have low-grade headaches for a lot, or low coughing, or all of these symptoms, and they don't attribute them to anything because they don't really, as you said, you just kept going because you were so busy working. They're just so under the radar that, we just don't watch them.
But even things as simple as your over-the-counter medication.
Yes.
If you're taking them because you have a headache, you are making your body's problem worse. Some of them upset your gut and kill off your good gut bacteria. I was allergic to aspirin, so I took Tylenol. And Tylenol is extremely hard on the liver. So my liver's been unhappy for years. It's taken me 10 years. And my liver enzymes are coming back down to where they're supposed to be, and my fatty liver is going away. I had also had Epstein-Barr as a child, so that impacted my liver. But I didn't know any of those things.
Yeah.
And I don't take any over-the-counter medication for anything anymore. Yeah. I take curcumin, which is the active ingredient from Tylenol, from turmeric, and I take quercetin for hay fever, which is nature's antihistamine. Works better than any pharmaceutical ever worked for me.
Brilliant.
So there are other things you can do.
Okay, so let's say you're working in an office, or you're working in a place where you can't change the carpet, you can't change the paint, because there are 50 other people working with you potentially. What can you do?
We bought very strong air filters.
Okay.
And I have one in my office next to where I sit, but I'm in an office just with me now. And then we bought one for the rooms we spend the most time in. So our bedroom has a really strong air freshener, air filter. Our living room has a really strong air filter. And then my office has one. The air inside the house is much worse than your air outside. And that's also very true in your offices. And I live in Los Angeles, so that's a big statement.
Yes.
That, if you can, try to air out your office and let fresh air in. And you need to be circulating the air so that you're not getting all that off-gassing that's going into your air and then stuck.
And I know you can buy little air filters now that you can actually literally put on your desk next to you, and that's really good. And then, of course, the other thing, which is totally natural and we often ignore, is plants. And there are plants that really absorb toxins. I think peace lily is one of those, isn't it?
Peace lily is one. I have one. I have new kitties, and they're poisonous to kitties. So if you're going to buy them, they're spathiphyllums. You can't let your animals near them. So mine all went to my office, so they keep me fresh there. But there are some other plants that are also great.
Yeah. So to stay, let's summarize it. To stay healthy in a somewhat toxic environment, put in an air filter, put in some plants. What else? Drink lots of water, filtered water.
Tons of water.
Hydrate.
Stop spraying fragrances into the air. Yeah. Your perfume, those plugins, the one that takes the scents out of the air, they're all super toxic. So stop it already. Yeah. You don't need that stuff.
Essential oils.
Right. Yes. And even at that, you don't need to use huge amounts of them, because in excess, they even become toxic.
Yeah.
But I use lavender. It's my favorite. It's very relaxing. it keeps my stress level down. And stress in the office is a huge problem because that impacts every organ in your body.
Absolutely.
I thought stress was good for me. I thought it made me more productive. It does not. I am much more productive now.
Depends on the stress. There's use stress and there's stress. If you've got use stress, that's the positive stress.
Right.
But it can flip really quickly into stress when we're operating from fight flight. And then toxins really impact, because when we've got lowered immunity, they can really grab a hold of us much more easily, right?
Right. I have learned a series of 3-minute exercises. I choose one mid-morning and I choose one mid-afternoon. It could be as simple as standing next to my desk and just jiggling. And you'll feel the blood go to your brain, and you'll feel your brain wake up, and you do it for 3 minutes. And you feel fantastic, and you've let off the top of your chronic stress before it became toxic, and you can go back to work. Or breathing. There are several breathing exercises that I use. My favorite is Dr. Andrew Weil's 4-7-8 breath. And you can actually look that up on YouTube and do it right with him, but it resets your parasympathetic nervous system and relaxes you. I use it to go to sleep some nights when I'm like, I've been too busy and I have busy mind, and it calms me right down. But whatever it is that you're going to do something to get that stress, that area at the top that's toxic, let it go, because then you'll be more productive and you'll be much healthier. And you don't want to use up all your cortisol. When I got sick, I was almost to Addison's disease. I had used up all my cortisol. So
well, some people may think that that's a really good idea, but because if we're producing a lot of cortisol, that means we're really stressed. But the thing is, when we run out of cortisol, we can't manage the stress anymore. Like adrenal depletion, for example, adrenaline depletion is a really serious issue. People have burnouts; they collapse when they don't have adrenaline or cortisol available anymore. So,
and when you're that stressed, you gain fat around your middle. That's from cortisol and your adrenals.
But the way to find out whether you have that is for women, it's really easy. If you're wearing a bra, just look at that, feel that space underneath there. If that tingles or you feel really uncomfortable, so it's right underneath the shoulder blades, for men as well, obviously. That's where the adrenal glands are. And if that tingles, you're running low on adrenaline. So
that's a great
there are
tip.
people who go, I'm not really feeling that great. And when I say, so you've been running high on adrenaline? No, I don't think so. I go, okay. How does that feel when I put my hand there? And they go, oh, that's really uncomfortable. And I'm like,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a nifty tip. And I use this little sucker.
No.
This is called a belly button one. I bought a little belly buddy that goes on the tip of it. And the theory is that you were born from your belly button, and through your belly button, you can exercise every organ in your body. And it also sets your parasympathetic nervous system and brings your stress level down.
Well, you would go straight to the vagus nerve. That's right underneath the belly.
Right. It goes and it goes straight up. And we actually saw it demonstrated by the head of neurology at UCLA, and he was poo-pooing it. But he had his brain machine up, and he was pulling people out of the audience, and their brain waves were all over the place. And then he gave them the belly button one, and they evened right out. We ran into him 2 weeks later, and he said, that was unbelievable. Every single patient I work with is going to use that now. And my husband and I use it on each other at night sometimes, just to bring us down.
Lovely. Okay. Well, that sounds really good. Look, we've had lots of very practical ideas, and Cheryl has written numerous books about it, and you can always look her up and ask her questions and, just get in touch with her, because it's really important that we learn how to manage toxicity. The toxic load that we have is not manageable. And we haven't even started talking about EMF and all sorts of other things that we are completely exposed. And in closed office buildings or in buildings where we don't open the doors anymore, and we're literally sitting in a Faraday cage. So things are bouncing around. But take care of yourself. So these are my final parting words. Check out what creates ill health for you, and if it's not really that much, if it's just a tinkle, like a tickle, or something where you're going, oh, it's not quite right, but you're going, I don't have time for that, please check into that. Cheryl and I have both had this illness that was very debilitating. I had chronic fatigue 25 years ago, and I detoxed my whole body. I was so toxic, and I haven't looked back since. But I'm also not using all sorts of medications or cleaners or, you know, anything.
Yeah, the toxins and cleaners are horrific.
Yeah. Yes. And so there's lots of things you can do, which people may tell you makes no difference, but take it from both of us, it really does.
It does. And if you don't know that you don't feel good, or you may not have asked your body lately how it feels, I am convinced that most people are walking around feeling lousy.
Yeah.
And until they start feeling good, they don't even recognize it.
Absolutely.
That was me.
So this is a good one. Yeah. Start feeling good and be aware that you're feeling good. Thank you so much, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next week.